She initially tried to blame her boyfriend, but then confessed and detailed exactly how she did it.
Alia Marie Brainham spent much of her 2 years alive, either homeless, living in a tent, or in a shed, and being cursed and neglected and abused. Alia was born with several disabilities, and her right eye was deformed and turning inward toward her brain, a condition her mother knew was serious but failed to treat. Her caregivers often didn't bother to change her diapers, resulting in rashes and bleeding. Through it all, Alia's mother was witnessed time and time again spewing hateful profanities at her. The toddler couldn't defend herself or even ask for help. She could not tell authorities who had left the bruises on her upper thigh. And when a team of child abuse experts asked her mother, Chelsea Huggett, a woman with admitted severe anger issues, about the injuries, she responded aggressively by saying, "Are you accusing me of abusing my child?" In fact, though there was mounting evidence that Alia was in grave danger, with a mother who'd already been accused of smothering and shaking her really hard in a public office, state child welfare authorities never considered Chelsea Huggett an abuser. But that changed on April the 26th when the child was pronounced dead. This was from a vicious attack that in many ways seemed inevitable. In her death, the little girl with the wisps of blonde hair and a penchant for looking pretty in pink joined a tragic cluster of children who had histories with the State Child Protection Agency before they were killed. And in Alia's last hours, these were particularly brutal. There was a multitude of bruises, marks, and other injuries, said the police. Her face was puffy, her left eye swollen and completely shut. Alia's brain was bleeding and the blood oozed from her nose and both ears. Alia had injuries to her forehead, cheeks, lips, head, shoulders, pelvic, and back. The cause of death was blunt force trauma, and the alleged killer was Chelsea Huggett, the mother who had her daughter's name and birthday tattooed across her chest. Citrus County Sheriff Jeffrey Dawson, he said, "This is a woman who could have cried out for help. She could have cried out for help. There are enough social services out there, but she chose to brutally murder her daughter." You see, Chelsea was charged with first-degree murder and aggravated child abuse and was sent to jail. She told police she threw the toddler against the wall for whining. Records obtained show that Chelsea had left a long trail of clues, suggesting that a toxic mixture of post-traumatic stress disorder, as per her service in the military, as well as a chemical imbalance that left her explosively angry, and her inability to cope with the needy and fussy child would likely combust into tragedy. The clues, records show, were all overlooked. You see, Alia's death shook the small Florida town of Hernando. An unidentified friend and family member created a page in memory of her and posted photos of the little girl. There were messages such as, "Thoughts are with you today, Alia," or "God has you safe in his hands. We have you forever in our hearts." But Alia herself first came to the Child Services attention in June 2012. You see, they deemed her case unworthy of any actions. You see, there were 2 calls to an abuse and neglect hotline suggesting the girl and her mother were living in a hot storage shed. Yet another report suggested that the family was homeless. The calls did not warrant an investigation. This is what the agency wrote, because they thought that being homeless or living in a shed is not connected to child safety issues. How's that even possible? Another report arrived on August the 10th, 2012. Aaliyah, it was said, appeared to be too skinny and the family was still homeless. She was suffering from horrible diaper rash because her mum's boyfriend, with whom the child was left with sometimes, refused to change her diapers. The report also noted that when Aaliyah was crying, the mother put a blanket over her mouth and she attacked her really hard on her legs, and as a result of this, she sustained finger-shaped welt marks. A review of Aaliyah's death said that the state's abuse hotline was told that Chelsea had attempted to smother the child while she was at a VA's office in Central Florida. Now, there is no evidence that particular allegation was investigated at all, as no effort was made to interview any witnesses other than Chelsea, who denied the claim. The investigation, such as it was, did, however, turn up other disturbing tidbits. You see, Chelsea told an investigator she had been experiencing anger issues due to her daughter not listening. She acknowledged repeatedly that she needed counseling. The authorities finished its investigation by finding no evidence that Chelsea had harmed her child. The agency offered the mom help, but did not insist she take it. Chelsea did sign a safety plan, promising to refrain from excessive corporal punishment. But then, on January the 10th, there was another call made to the child services. You see, a caller said that Aaliyah was not receiving physical therapy for a genetic condition that affected her feet. She was also dirty and had a diaper rash that covered her pelvic region. And then there was this one allegation, right, on January the 8th, 2013. This allegation said that Aaliyah had a bruise on her lower back that resembled 3 fingers on a handprint. An allegation that apparently was made by Aaliyah's grandmother. The report added that Aaliyah's mom yells at her, telling her to shut up and be quiet. Investigators did not find any evidence of an attack at that time, but a doctor with the Department of Health's Child Protection Team, which specializes in detecting abuse, documented linear and circular bruises on Aaliyah's thighs. I don't understand. If you see bruises on a child, how do you ignore that? And this doctor, having seen these bruises, concluded that they were evidence of physical abuse. Now, in an interview with an investigator, Chelsea said she suffered from a chemical imbalance and gets severely angry. She admitted she struck Aaliyah as a form of discipline, which she had promised months earlier not to do. And if there was any doubt regarding the length of Chelsea's fuse, it ended when she lashed out at doctors who asked her, "Well, Aaliyah, how did she get these bruises?" Oddly, when an investigator closed her case on February the 12th, she ruled the abuse allegation was not substantiated. The investigator wrote that there is no evidence of any physical or sexual abuse, no injury marks or bruises on the child. The agency did nevertheless extract another safety plan from Chelsea and her boyfriend, in which the couple promised no physical discipline. Like the earlier one, the safety plan afforded no safety at all. On April the 24th, Chelsea took her daughter to Citrus Memorial Hospital by ambulance to treat swelling in the girl's hands. Aaliyah showed no signs of an attack that day, but later that evening, Aaliyah became lethargic. Chelsea told friends she thought Aaliyah had consumed an ant and roach killer, and on the advice of her mum, she called a poison control hotline. The hotline told her to rush Aaliyah to the hospital. Now, when Chelsea failed to follow orders, the hotline called and said, "Why?" Well, Chelsea told police that she told the hotline employee that her daughter was now fine. In truth, Aaliyah was suffering from a life-threatening attack, and Chelsea later admitted she refused to seek medical care because she knew she'd be arrested. Now, of course, most suspects, all it takes is a little push and they'll break. So Chelsea told police on May the 2nd that she had violently her baby at least 2 times the week before because the baby would not stop whining. Aaliyah, who was 2 years old, could not speak words but seemed quite capable of vocalizing her discomfort in other ways. Chelsea said she would not shut the hell up, so Chelsea employed a number of strategies to quiet her child. Firstly, she covered the little girl's mouth with her hand to muffle her cries, and then she shook her relentlessly. Secondly, at 4 a.m. on April the 26th, she slammed her baby's head into a wall, Aaliyah's skull, by headbutting her. Wow. And then on May the 26th, that attack finally quieted Chelsea's fussy baby. Aaliyah lost consciousness when her skull was cracked. She never reawakened. Chelsea was eventually sentenced to 30 years in prison. You classless cow.